Sorry, I think we'll have to do it for now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry. Yeah,
We
sorry.
are actually live. Okay, so guys, today we are going to be talking about the madness going on at the EFCC. So EFCC Magu versus the federal government of Nigeria. This topic is quite interesting because there's a lot of background issues before the arrest, before the highly publicized arrest, and there's a lot to talk about there. So I am going to start with the EFCC expert in the house, who happens to be Stanley. So Stanley, can you help us explain what is really going on at the EFCC?
So this is really weird that today the man tasked with helping the government fight corruption is at the center of the corruption investigation himself. Is really telling that that is where we are today. Some jobs should sort of have some minimum expectation of those who have that job. As you guys are aware, I'm the biggest critic of anti-corruption fighters here in this Abuja. I do not think that they are up to the game. I think they are more corrupt than, and this is without prejudice to Magu himself. But I think that most of the people tasked with responsibility of helping the government fight and battle this corruption disease that we are dealing with here in Abuja are more corrupt than those that they've been asked to fight. Is something that is whispered in the background that these guys are very powerful. They are bribeable. They are open to demanding for bribe. All kind of things. But these are things that are said in whispers. So having Magu at the center of a huge investigation involving corruption sort of gives some legitimacy to things that have been whispered quietly in the past. But what is at the heart of this challenge with Magu is all about because I do not have facts about all of the media report about him accepting bribes and all of that. But let's deal with the ones that there are factual issues around, which is accounting for what has been recovered. How much has EFCC recovered in the last 5 years that they've been fighting corruption, and they've been seizing assets, they've been recovering assets? What has been recovered so far, and where is it? Part of our program requires that all of the agencies involved in recovering assets, stolen assets, both from the immediate past administration and all of the ones from the military era, that all of the proceeds are, there's a monthly or quarterly accounting process that lists what has been recovered, where it was recovered from, where what has been recovered is being held. Is it physical assets? Is it cash? Is it property? Whatever it is, wherever it is, there should be sort of like a register of what has been recovered. That has proved almost impossible. Part of the work also includes sort of bringing all of the anti-corruption agencies in together and opening a communication channel for them, not only the anti-corruption agencies, but including the security agencies, for information sharing platform. That also has, sort of failed. It hasn't moved forward. But when you look at what has been recovered and what is reported in the media versus what EFCC says been recovered and what has been found in their recovery account, that discrepancy is not unique to EFCC. It's something you regularly see with government accounting. So when you look at data published by CBN compared to this on the same issue, compared to what NNPC reports, compared to what Ministry of Finance or Office of the Accountant General of the Federation report, there's usually that discrepancy. But we shouldn't see this with EFCC in terms of how much. It's a straightforward answer. I raided Stanley's house, I found $1 billion. I raided Wale's house, I found $10 billion. That's a straightforward issue. It shouldn't be a matter of discrepancy about where. So that there's a question around where the money is, how much it is really a credibility issue already for the entire institution, not just for Magu himself, but for the entire institution. But there's a solution to it, like every other thing. There was already a solution planned out, which has been stalled for, and there's blame to go around. Early in the life of this administration, there was a bill sent to the National Assembly, Proceeds of Crime Bill. It's been there since 2016 or thereabouts, or 2017. The bill has not been passed. So there's question about why National Assembly refused to pass the bill. And there's a reason why I'm bringing up this bill. There's also question about those that submitted the bill. What pressure have they mounted on the National Assembly? Did they mount on the National Assembly to pass the bill, right? If you say this bill is at the heart of your effort to tackle corruption, it should be your priority. And those of you that live abroad know how a government comes in and says, can you guys hear me?
Yes, Stanley, yes. Carry on.
Yeah, okay, hear you.
So a government comes in and says, these are
I think Stanley has
lost him.
Yeah. So I think
Niger issues.
yeah. So the reason I actually picked Stanley is because I know he has a lot of information on EFCC's inadequacies and the issues they've had to face over the years. I think he's back. Okay, Stanley, good to have you back. Carry on.
Sorry. So there was a legislation that was sent. So if this legislation is really important for government's anti-corruption fight, you would have expected that all machinery of government to be applied into getting this bill passed through the National Assembly, especially for an assembly controlled by the same party, who says priority is anti-corruption fight, right? So that's that question. What effort did the government make to get that bill passed, Proceeds of Crime Bill? Why did I bring up the issue of the bill? If we had that bill, we wouldn't be asking the kind of questions that Magu is being asked today. I'm sorry, not Ribadu, right? Nobody will be asking him, because the idea was the bill was supposed to set up a particular clean, transparent, straightforward framework for managing recovered assets, right? So it shouldn't have been the responsibility of EFCC to handle asset that has been recovered. There was supposed to be a legal process of turning over whatever assets you recover into a dedicated account that is openly and transparently managed. But that didn't work. The bill has not been passed. You don't hear the executive that submitted the bill talk about it, right? Nobody's concerned. And this is at the heart of how government operates, where EFCC naturally was opposed to the bill because it takes away a certain power that they have. It takes away a certain power that they have. That power is the ability to control what they've recovered. If you're here in Abuja, you will notice EFCC sees a property. After a while, you see they've allocated it to one government institution or the other, even when maybe there are legal talks, there's an ongoing legal fight over ownership of that property. They allocate it to whoever they want, right? So those are the kind of challenges as an institution that EFCC was struggling with. And when you have loose power, it's open to abuse. Anybody can abuse power. So to a large extent, I'm not surprised about what I'm hearing, is because we have not learned that fighting corruption is not an individual issue, it's an issue of institution. Once you have the right institutions in place, you don't need to chase people. Those institutions will naturally prevent opportunity. And this is not even limited to EFCC alone. It's about all of the leakages you have, all of the opportunities for corruption that you have in government. Once the institutions are right, all of these things will go away. I love to give one example. We used to struggle with ghost workers a lot with government payroll system, right? Somebody set out to say everybody must have a BVN attached to their account. So no matter how many bank accounts you have, you must have a single BVN linked to all of the accounts. Once that was done, all of those people who will be in one office and their names will appear 30 times with different bank accounts on the government payroll system. Once you link all of that account to your BVN, right, you can't hide. You can't hide because the BVN is done in such a way that the names that appear on all of those accounts must be the same across board, right? It took away, like, just by building one single institution. And I can't remember when the issue of BVN came up, nobody ever talked about it in the terms of an attempt to fight corruption, right? It was a way of doing proper identification system for our banking system, knowing who owns what, who controls what. Simple. That's simple
Stanley,
one approach.
Stanley.
Yeah,
Stanley,
yeah,
sorry,
sure.
sorry. Can I just come in? So what you just said there, I think is very key. When they introduced BVN, because this BVN strategy has helped to plug a big leakage in the government. I am thinking to myself, if the idea behind introducing BVN set out to attack or to address that particular issue, I'm pretty sure that they would have tried to block,
Exactly.
introducing it. They would have tried to sort of, sabotage the effort and make sure it doesn't come into play.
Yeah.
Carry on,
So
sorry.
again, so these are things that institutions can do and indirectly sort of help improve systems. I can't remember anybody saying BVN is our effort to fight ghost workers. But in the end, it turned out to be a big tool for weeding out a lot of ghost workers. I'm not saying it's foolproof. There are still a lot of challenges. And I'm sure trusting my people, very smart in the negative sense, I'm sure they have loopholes around the PVM, but to a large extent, it made a huge impact on our ability to fight corruption. So these are the simple things institutions can do. But and from my experience, I've seen people, because I currently occupy an office, right? I do not have a broader view of an issue. So at that moment, if there's an issue that comes up, all I'm thinking about is how without this whittle down the power of the office I currently hold. Not about how will this impact the broader issue in the society. No. All I care about is if this goes forward, it is going to cut down the current power that I control. And that is what has happened to EFCC. And I see a lot of legislations come through, and the first thing you hear is that EFCC is opposed to it, or this other government agency is opposed to it. But when you think about the reason why they are opposed to it, it's just because it takes away certain power that they have no use for, and it's broad. And the result of that kind of thinking, individual thinking versus institutional thinking, is Magu as we have it today.
Interesting. Bane, let me come to you. So my question for you is that I'm thinking to myself that we spoke about 2 weeks ago about leadership.
Mm.
Right now we have a key institution, and the mandate of that institution is to I think detect and deter corruption, financial crimes. And it looks like we've made another bad appointment here.
Yeah.
Because we had the rumors, we had all the red flags before this guy was appointed, and the Senate refused to confirm him. And what we are hearing right now is shocking. And I tell you, I work in financial crimes industry. Financial crimes compliance industry in Canada. The financial institution unit for Canada is FinTrack. And I can imagine, so FinTrack's mandate is also to detect and deter corruption in Canada and to protect the financial integrity of the Canadian economy. Now, imagine the director of FinTrack, who is appointed by the Canadian government, being arrested for financial crimes.
Scandal, isn't it? It's a big
exactly.
scandal.
It's so bad that on my LinkedIn I post a lot of AML, a lot of money laundering articles, news. This is pretty big coming out of one of the biggest countries in the developing world. I was just ashamed to post it. Like it is that bad. You understand? So my question to you is how did we end up in 2020 still battling with bad appointments and bad leadership in key positions yet again?
Well, I think it's just simply, I mean, from my not so educated view on it, but I think it's just simply down to the people that we have, the current crop of people that we have in leadership. And from where I'm sat, I think our current president just isn't interested
Bane,
in governance.
Bane, I think there's something wrong with your network. I
Yeah?
think you're breaking off. I think your network is not stable. Try again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, can you hear me? Is it better?
Yes. Yeah, all good.
Cool. We're good. Yeah. So for me, like you already mentioned, it's about leadership, isn't it? We have a leader that hasn't that even by Nigerian
good
standards.
again.
Okay. Wow. Okay. What's going on?
Did you plug something in? If you plug something in, just
No, I didn't.
Okay.
The funny
No.
thing is, the funny thing is when you stop,
Yeah.
it starts working well
It
again.
starts.
When you say, "Oh, is it okay now?"
Yeah, it's good now. It's good now. You can go on now.
Okay. So my simple take, and this could be this may sound very simplistic. That it all boils down to who we have as our current crop of leaders, and unfortunately, with the way Nigeria is set up at the moment, with the way our constitution is set up and the enormous powers that are concentrated at the center, we unfortunately do not have a president that is interested or even pretends to be interested. You lost me again? Have you lost me? Oh no, I can't even. Can you hear me?
We can. I think you're still breaking up.
You're still breaking.
All right, okay.
Feels like you're about to.
You guys should continue. I think you guys should carry on.
Yeah, maybe,
Okay.
maybe
You
you
guys
go
carry
to
on.
Wale.
What I'll do
Why
is-
you stop?
Wale, I think.
You guys carry on.
I think-
I'll come back.
I think you should
I'll
come in.
join you guys back.
Okay, so Wale, let me tweak the question to you a bit. So, to you, like when you first heard this news of Magu being arrested and all the allegations, what was the first thing that crossed your mind?
I was like, oh shit.
Were you surprised, or did you think, yeah, this is just business as usual? Because personally, I'm not like Bani was saying, I'm not very educated on this EFCC issue. Like Stanley knows way more than me, but I have a way of just assuming, and this is why leadership is very critical. Everyone trusts leaders and people and friends, and we just trust people to do the right thing, even in Nigeria where we have a lot of issues that has to do with trust. You still have to trust people to a certain degree, even if it's 10%. You understand? Some people you trust them 100%. So when I heard that we had appointed this guy, the first thing that came to my mind was he should be fine. Like I didn't really go deep into his bio or his track record, so I didn't know much about him. But the first thing that crossed my mind was he should be okay. Like this should be someone who should be like reasonably competent. But what I'm seeing right now, I was totally wrong, and I should have paid more attention. So this is my question to you. Like, did you think that this guy did you think that Magu was the right appointment, or were you expecting this kind of shambles?
No, there's no way. Well, the short answer is no. But then the long answer is that why should anyone, um, why should anyone expect this kind of thing from an anti-corruption um, chief? You know, it's probably going to be cynical to expect that, at some point you're going to hear, you may expect that there will be jabs thrown at him. There'll be like, opposition coming at him with all sort of death, but you wouldn't think that they will find it to be true, or you wouldn't think that, well, there's still allegations here and there. You wouldn't find that, things will be so deep that we'll be finding, news about how we employ the proxy in an Abuja pastor to buy homes abroad and things like that. So you wouldn't think that, you would think, oh, they're trying to pin some debt on him and then he will shake it off. But here we are. A couple of things, not just two things, a couple of things. Number one, leadership is a top-down thing. If the leadership from top has this kind of approach or body line. So again, first of all, EFCC has lost a lot of credibility in the last 5 to 7 years. It became what people could openly say was a vehicle to prosecute people who were not on the same side of politics with the leadership of the country.
An attack dog for political opponents.
Yeah, I was trying to be a bit careful, yeah. So, and then there were actually solid facts to back that up, because there are all sort of people that people knew, it was clear as day that were corrupt in the country, but the EFCC just overlooks them. There's the Lagos, people there, the Bodilon people there. There's so many people in Abuja as well that we all know. There are past governors who are now sitting in the Senate. There are also people that are not being actually interrogated at all by the EFCC. So that already created some questions around the integrity of the body. And then when Magu was elected, if you now go back in retrospect to watch all the screenings, people also had concerns, although howbeit it came from, also corrupt people that we know. The then Senator, Dino Melai, things like that, who also is not someone that we can excuse, as it were, people that, in my expectation, these are people that should be come after. So that question already hangs around the EFCC. Then the next thing is that, so this man was confirmed, as it were, because of apparent strong arming from the presidency.
Was he even confirmed?
He was never confirmed. He was acting. Yeah. So this guy. So exactly. So you want to be sure. You want to be a leadership. And there's so many examples. If you put somebody forward, and for almost 7 years now, right, or 5 years, because 5, right, 5. So in 5 years, this guy has not been confirmed. Leadership has not brought forward any other person to put forward for confirmation. There's no replacement. It says something about leadership as well. If the MD of Guaranty Trust Bank puts someone up for head of audit to the board for confirmation, the first board meeting, second board meeting, AGM, this guy is not confirmed, there are two things that can happen. One, I change my candidate. Two, we don't have a head of audit. These are kind of things that you expect to happen. So you need pragmatic approach, or you need sending of a message from leadership to show that you actually want to fight corruption. The other thing is, so in the last 5 years, there's so many things that have happened in the EFCC there was how many billion that was found in the Koyi house. And like Stanley was saying, you just don't hear the logical conclusion of these funds. You find money, you confiscate properties and all sort of things, but there's no proper channel to allocate or to administer or to even work with the funds that were recovered or the properties that were confiscated. Is just so, again, no governance. So 1, leadership; 2, governance; 3, structure; 4, due process with select. So the whole atmosphere around EFCC has been sketchy, which now leads you to the conclusion of the fact that actually there might be something. There might be something that's, again, there's a conspiracy here, not conspiracy, but there's a connivance here. This man has to be there to cover up a couple of things. This man has to be there to sort out a couple of things. It's just logic. I don't have to be in Abuja like Stanley to then put the ones and tools together to actually make things up. So 1, at the end of the day, now, in retrospect, I'm not surprised. Initially, I wouldn't have expected, when this guy was being interviewed for confirmation and everything, I didn't expect that this is going to happen down the line. But now, in retrospect, with all that happened in the last 5 to 7 years, I actually don't. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Interesting. Bane, sorry. Do you want to continue?
Yeah. To be honest, Wale has said literally everything I was going to say, which is, the fact that we have an acting EFCC chairman, we've had an acting EFCC for the last 5 years, in defiance to what which is our National Assembly, what that we have. It's just already telling me. Yeah, already. Okay, is it happening again?
No, carry on talking.
Okay, sorry. So it tells you all that you need to know, really. Like I said, everything starts from leadership. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we already have too much power concentrated at the center, right? And then we now have a situation. Are we still having problems?
No, it's fine. Carry on.
Yeah. So and then we're still having issue. We're still having So we have a situation where we have a lot of power concentrated in the center. Then we now have a problem in Nigeria, which you can't really blame us because we've had more military rule than democratic rule. So we believe in the cult of the person. We believe in Buhari more than we believe in his government. We believe that, and that's why you heard things like his body language. Remember beginning when there was, I think, many areas of Nigeria were experiencing good energy supply.
Bane, you're breaking up again. Again.
Oh no. Okay.
Breaking up again.
Maybe I should just take part today by listening. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
But let me jump in here. Let me jump in here, right?
Carry on, please.
There are a few questions. Playing out in my head, and let me just ask. The first question is, what is Magu's track record before being the EFCC chairman? That's the first question. The second question is, why did the Senate reject his confirmation twice? Why? If you listen to his confirmation hearing, were you impressed with the answers he gave to the questions put to him by the senators? If you were on an interview panel and you asked him those questions, the questions weren't exactly smart either, right? But if you asked those questions and you listen to the answers he gave, will you say hire this person for this very sensitive job based on the answers he gave? The other question is, how do you remain in an acting capacity for 5 years? 5 years, you are in an acting capacity, thereby taking away the power of the Senate to hold you accountable to the position. Because when you go through a Senate confirmation hearing, it means that the Senate can vote to take you out of that office. And what the current administration did was take that ability away from the Senate. How do you remain in an acting position for 5 years? 5 years, meaning that the next president can come into office and decide that he does not need the Senate to confirm whoever he or she appoints as EFCC chair, and all he needs to do is put the person in that position in acting capacity for the 8 or 4 years that the person is president, thereby taking away Senate's ability to do their job. Those are simple questions that we need to ask.
So on that last question, who is responsible for that? Who is responsible for
whoever puts him in office as in acting capacity? Because look, not the normal thing. Right? So first of all, and which is why, even though we watch America unravel as they are, right? You can see a rush of new legislations coming from Democrats in the House in response to some of the things the president do. So, for instance, I've heard Nancy Pelosi say they are going to introduce a new bill to respond to the president's pardon of one of his associates, Roger Stone. Immediately, this is a legislative response to an abuse of power, right? Immediately, they are trying to plug whatever loophole you see. But in this instance, first of all, there is a legislation that set up EFCC that set out the criteria for appointing somebody to head EFCC. Now, you appointed this guy from outside because it's a different kettle of fish. If he is already inside EFCC and you then say you are the most senior person, now that there's a vacancy, you assume acting capacity while we await Senate confirmation, right? In this instance, he wasn't a current staff of EFCC. So you brought him from outside and made him acting chairman. Now you sent his name to the Senate to confirm, and the Senate rejected him. And now I want to come back to talking about why did the Senate reject him? Because sometimes our ability to understand how government operates is colored by our politics. But you brought him outside, Senate rejected him. Your response to the Senate rejection is to say, remain in office, right? And so that way you have decided that you are above the Senate. But unfortunately, we run a country that is unlike the US, where if this happened in the US, you would expect immediate response to this abuse of power, which would have amounted to either an amendment of EFCC Act to say that something along the line that you cannot bring somebody from outside of EFCC and put the person in acting capacity. It would have been a legislative response to this type of abuse of power. If you understand what I mean. But the National Assembly did nothing. They were okay with the president sidestepping the power of the Senate. They were okay because that's the way I saw it. But let me go back to why was it even rejected in the first place. And this is something, because we are very emotional about, and this is something about politics, and I think we talked about it the other day, that when people become partisan, their ability to view issues rationally is a bit
impacted.
Is impacted. Now, when the Senate rejected Magu the first time, the general assumption of everyone was that Saraki did not like Magu.
Yeah.
Remember, Saraki was Senate president then, right?
Yeah.
The reason we were told, or the general perception was that the reason Magu was rejected by the Senate was because he was a real threat to Saraki, because Saraki is corrupt and he didn't want somebody who would be tough on him, right? That was the general assumption. But the reality is that the Senate gave a reason for his rejection. The reason came, if I may, broadly interpret it, came from the president. The reason for rejection came from the president's personal security, which is DSS.
Yeah.
DSS wrote a damning security report. Listen, this DSS reports to the president, right? The president sends somebody's name to the Senate. The same DSS that reports to the president.
Oh my God!
Confident enough to write a report to the Senate asking them to not confirm someone the president they report to sent to them. I don't know if this sounds crazy. I don't know if it is. Every single time I think about it looks extremely ridiculous to me.
It is an absolute madness.
We were so fixated on the fact that Saraki was Senate president, and we were buying the lie that the reason Saraki the Senate kept rejecting him was because he would be tough on them. That was the lie we were told. The second time, the president sent his name back after he was rejected. The DSS, the same DSS, and which is something that drives me crazy. If the president felt strongly about this guy being the EFCC chairman, the first thing I would do, if the Senate wrote back and said the reason we are rejecting him is that DSS says he has issues. If I'm the president, the first place to start with is to resolve whatever issues the DSS found. Right? I will try to respond and make sure that DSS is able to write back, because the DSS is required to send a report. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
So the DSS is required to send that report to the National Assembly as part of that confirmation hearing. But the report keeps coming saying do not confirm. So if I'm the president and I'm keen on this, my first point of trying to resolve the challenge will be trying to get DSS to vacate their report. But the second time his name went to the Senate, the second time DSS wrote again to the Senate saying do not confirm him for so and so reason.
It's amazing.
The same reasons are part of the things we are now hearing in this investigation. And I'm not saying that what he's been accused of is true, and I do not have that fact. But I'm just saying that based on what we know, there was already enough background information, but we did not think of that information rationally because there was an opposition figure we thought was responsible for his non-confirmation. But then let's go back to the quality of answers he gave, right, during his Senate confirmation hearing. If I am president and I say there are three things very important to me and anti-corruption is top on the list, right, I will find the best guy possible. Because again, fighting corruption is not about the number of people. And I don't know why this is hard. Well, maybe because of the kind of country where we are in, where people believe in more entertainment than substance, right? It's not about how many people you hold into EFCC detention, first answers out of them for 3 days, after 3 days of detention and interrogation and whatever. That's not how to fight corruption.
I have a question on that though.
If you make me EFCC chairman today, every single time I pick you up, you must go to court the next day because I must have done my work. I must have gathered enough facts that any day I pick you up, I'm ready to go to court. It shouldn't be after I pick you up, I start investigating. Which is totally bonkers. That investigation starts from the point of arrest.
I know.
You know the point
on what I say.
Right.
Man.
Yeah. So
let me with Nigeria.
Yeah.
I know I've not had time to talk, but one funny thing with Nigeria is that the ridiculousness of things. Sometimes because it happens so much, but when you now start talking about it dawns on you afresh how ridiculous and how unreal it is.
It is.
It doesn't make sense. Sorry,
I was going to touch on the same thing. So I'm going to pass that question to Wale. So what Stanley just said about what he's going to do if he becomes EFCC chairman, he just said that he's going to what he described is like breathing in and oxygen, right? Like, okay, you if you want to stay alive, you have to breathe in oxygen, right? If you explain this to a child and ask the child a question, what would you do if I ask you to convict or to try and investigate or to try? They would explain to you that, okay, we'll find something on this person, then we put
go
the
to court.
evidence forward and we go to court and we get a judicial order that will trigger an arrest. It is so simple that you cannot get it wrong. Stanley has been talking about this for a very long time, that these guys, they go to court, they arrest people without any substantial evidence, and they make a lot of noise. They put funds and stolen funds in front of the TV or in front of the media, and it all means nothing, because once you get a reasonably competent legal representation, they will blow EFCC out of the water. And this happens time and time and time again. Now, Wale, my question to you is, why have they not gotten this simple thing right? Investigate, get your evidence, trigger an arrest, or take that person to court. It is that simple. Why have they not done it? Why have they not even put that process in play?
I think you must understand that, for humans to achieve something, there has to be an incentive. Right. And if there's no incentive to do anything, why are you doing it? That's why we have the carrot and the stick approach. That's why we have the rewards and punishment approach. That's why we have, all sort of, laurels behind the line, awards if you cross the line, incentive to drive people. I think on the side notes, Stanley, there's one favorite lawyer that's always defeating the EFCC. What's his name again? Say again.
Him now. Ozokeme.
I know there's that guy, he has
I
their
have a
number.
story. I have a story about him.
He has
just
their number. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's a simple issue of incentive, right? And I'm a structures person. I'm a systems guy. If you want to get from A to B, it should not be dependent on how you feel today. It should be dependent on a reusable, replayable, and a structure that we can always reuse, so that anybody else can get from A to B. It doesn't have to be just me. So on that note, I think it's an incentive thing. If there is no reason for EFCC to do it, there's no check for power. And you know how it is, right? Like Sandy said, if there's a bill, if there's a law that's going to be passed that's going to reduce the spread or the reach of the powers that an organization or a parastatal or a government agency has in Nigeria, that is enough reason for them to oppose such a bill, such a law. So, number one, there's no incentive within EFCC to do the right thing, because if they have the right structure and they say this is our process, and it makes no sense for it not to work, right? It's a framework. It should be right there in front. It should even be a mantra. It should be something that when EFCC is being talked about, it should be something that they should put as a slide on the TV that everybody can see. The 4 tenets of EFCC: investigates, prosecutes, investigates, arrest, prosecutes. It should be a simple workflow that everybody should be clear about. But how do you enrich yourself if you have that kind of transparency? It's not going to work. How does Magu get rich? How can Magu buy a house of 537 million naira in Dubai if there was that process? How can Magu now be accused of being unable to account for?
Allegedly.
Well, that's it. That's it. We are in that space. We're in that space
Yeah.
of allegations now, right? So
Yeah.
pardon me, I'm putting all of that under the umbrella of allegations now. How can Magu now be accused or be faced with allegations of not remitting 332 properties out of over 800 that has been seized? So again, there has to be incentives for people to do things, and I don't blame Magu. I blame people like Ribadu, who was there, recorded all the successes, had a president like Obasanjo who, as bad as he was, if you went to him with something that looks like straightforward, he would probably have, he probably support it and throw his weight behind it. And those are the times then they should have built systems. Those are the times when they should have built systems, built competency. EFCC should have one of the best legal system in the country today. Like, people should be aspiring, as lawyers, they should be aspiring to work for EFCC. They should be aspiring to go to court. It should be a double-edged thing. It should be a thing of honor to convict fraudsters of your people that are defrauding your country. It should be a thing of pride that you want to join that kind of academy. 2, it should be a thing of pride to join the crop of the finest lawyers, because EFCC should be somewhere that if EFCC is on your case, you should either, first of all, leave the country, because that they're probably going to find something. So you don't have that, because it takes away all that leeway for people to enrich themselves. It takes away that space and we're not quite serious as a country. We're not serious about fighting corruption. Our president has his hands everywhere. There's corruption allegation against the president himself, as it were. So there's not much you can do. If the story, and I believe Stanley, if story that that Stanley just told us is true, which I believe it is, that twice the DSS has advised the Senate not to confirm the president's candidates for this job. It makes sense. It makes sense if we say this is the organization that we have entrusted with state security. If they're saying there's a problem here, why wouldn't you? It's like employing, it's like having the police, and the police is saying there's this particular house. I mean, I'm looking for the right way to explain it, but it makes no sense. If the people you've entrusted with security intel work are giving you the hints twice about the person, and there's nothing being done about it,
Is the DSS independent?
No, it's reporting to the president. It's independent, reporting to the president.
There's no organization that is independent in Nigeria.
So how can they issue that kind of report twice without Buhari's approval, or because it makes the president look bad? So how come
exactly why the president should actually say, let's get in the room?
I think what that shows. Sorry, just to answer quickly.
Yeah, carry on. No, talk.
I think what that shows is that it shows you the different competing interests in the presidency. That's what I think.
And it also shows that the presidency does not care. It shows that the presidency chooses what it will give credence to and what it will not give credence to. Okay. Which is bad precedent.
Which is like the different power blocks in the presidency played a huge role in, because there was that feeling that there's a camp that the DSS was loyal to, who was opposed to this guy being confirmed. So that was why it was easy for them to downplay a report from DSS. There was also that whole power tussle between power blocks within the presidency, depending on what camp you belong to, determined how they responded. So that whole politicizing an agency like DSS was also very critical in helping us along the line of where we are today. But let me tell you one story. The story about Michael Zuckerberg. It was really weird. So I'd gone to EFCC Academy for a training, and EFCC invited him as one of the guest lecturers for our training. And the day he came, Magu was there. Magu was also at the training. And after Magu finished speaking, it was Mike's turn. As at that time, I didn't pay a lot of attention to his cases against EFCC in courts. So apparently he was representing people like, he still represents people like Patience Jonathan and all of those people. And he said right there in front of Magu, he says that he bills his client. And I think he wrote an article since this Magu drama started. He wrote an article, and I think I saw that on Sahara Reporters, where he repeated the same thing. He says he charges his clients high if they have cases with EFCC. The reason he charges them premium is because he will win as long as the case is against EFCC. And I'm saying he is saying this in front of Magu.
I've heard that story. Yeah, you've told me that story.
This is not hearsay. I'm not telling you something I heard from someone. I was there, right? So he says he charges his clients premium because if the case is against EFCC, he's sure he will win.
Wow.
So once you come to him, if he's going to take your case, you have to be paying for his time because he's going to win. So he decides on what clients he takes, and that the one way he starts with EFCC is that EFCC brings his clients to court and they charge them for 120 count. They bring 120 count charges against his clients. And once you file the charges, he reads the charges, looks at the ones that he knows there's no way EFCC can prove, and he starts attacking those charges, right? And once he starts to attack the charges, what EFCC does is that they go back and start to withdraw those charges. And I'm sure you read the news and you hear EFCC has withdrawn some charges, they've amended charges against this person. So once they start to withdraw the charges, it confirms to him that they didn't have their evidence. So he will continue to look for the weakest of charges and continue to attack and drag out the case until EFCC loses. Because in the front, if you're a judge, and I come to you and say,
the case,
and I'm certain that this person stole this glass of cup, and then I come back the next day and say, I want to amend the charges that he now broke the cup, he didn't steal it. I'll start doubting everything you say.
100%.
And he said this in front of Magu. This is not hearsay. I was in EFCC Academy.
What year was this?
This should be 2017 or 20. Yeah, it should be 2017. He wrote
3 to 4 years.
Article, yes, he wrote an article. It should be 2016 or 2017.
Yeah.
He wrote an article on Sahara Reporters, and he repeated the same line that he told. He even narrated that particular incident.
My point is that Magu was there. My point is that Magu was there 4 years ago, and
nothing changed.
Exactly my point. So in 4 years, I told you my secret to beating you in court, and you couldn't go back to have a framework,
come, guys,
and say, okay, this is our new approach. If this is this, and which leads me to my own question.
Amazing
I'm not taking
incompetence.
Yeah, I'm not. Monji, I'm not taking your role here. I actually have my own questions, and I'm, the questions
I think our time is up for the recording. So we've gone way past 45 minutes. So what we are going to do is we can continue this debate next week or the next time we meet. We will continue this because I think we should give it two tries.
Sessions, right?
Yeah, so 2 sessions. Then
I'll write my questions down then.
Exactly. Then we'll talk about education reforms. And I would also want us to talk about electricity. It's a big topic, so we can break it down because I really like to know what is going on, and it's good that we have Stan on board. So we're just going to stop the recording now. Then, so recording.